You know, in the wild world of AI, it feels like a new coding assistant pops up almost every single week. But once in a while, something comes along that really makes you sit up and take notice. Today, we're going to look at a tool that's making some pretty big promises, and you know what? It actually seems to be delivering on them. And you can see that excitement right here. This tool is called CodeBuff, and it's being called a really amazing CLI coding agent. Now, what in the world does that mean for developers like you and me? Well, let's break it down and see if this thing really lives up to all the hype. All right, so let's properly meet this new challenger stepping into the AI coding ring. I mean, this space is packed with some heavy hitters, right? But CodeBuff is coming in hot, not just as another option, but as something that could seriously change the game, especially if you're a developer who basically lives in the command line. So at its heart, CodeBuff is a command line tool. That means you're talking to it right there in your terminal, no fancy buttons or menus to click through. But the real magic, what makes it so darn interesting, is what it's built for. It's specifically designed to just swallow and understand these huge, messy code bases that a lot of other tools choke on, and it promises to do it way, way faster. And this right here, this is the headline. According to their own tests, a tough task that would take a powerhouse like Claude Code about 20 minutes, CodeBuff handles in just 6 or 7. Now that's not just a little faster, that's a massive leap in performance. But hey, benchmarks are just numbers. Let's see how it does in a real-world test. Okay, for our first test, we're not going to lob it a softball. Nope. The challenge is to throw CodeBuff into the deep end with a complex project it's never seen before and ask it a really simple but incredibly hard question. So, what's going on in here? The project we're talking about is a JavaScript execution visualizer. It is a big one. It's got multiple parts, an engine, an interpreter, a parser. You get the idea. The mission for CodeBuff? Scan the whole shebang and spit out one single architecture file that explains how all those pieces talk to each other. That is not an easy thing to ask any developer, let alone an AI. So how long do you think it took? Just 3 minutes. Seriously. In about the time it takes to brew a cup of coffee, CodeBuff had scanned the entire repo, figured out its structure, and created the file we asked for. That kind of speed is just, wow. It's kind of mind-blowing. But here's the real question. Was the output any good? And the answer is a big, fat yes. It produced a totally accurate architecture diagram. It correctly mapped out the UI, the data flow, all the core components, so test number 1, a huge success. CodeBuff proved it can get the lay of the land in a complex project and fast. Okay, understanding code is one thing. That's impressive, but can it actually write code? More importantly, can it fix code that's broken? Well, that brings us to the ultimate test, tackling a really nasty bug. And we're not talking about a simple typo or a missing semicolon here. We're asking if CodeBuff can figure out and fix a problem that would require a human developer to have some serious skills and do a deep dive into the code's logic. Can it show us those real skills? Now, what's so interesting here is the bug itself. It involves something called a timeout function in JavaScript. It's supposed to make a piece of code wait, but in this case, it just gets stuck in a loop forever. That is a notoriously tricky problem to debug. As the original source put it, this is a tedious bug to solve, and it's not easy to resolve. The challenge has been set. So on the left, you see the problem. The timeout function just hangs, and the whole application freezes up. Then, after letting CodeBuff take a shot at it, you see the result on the right. The timeout finishes like it's supposed to, and the app runs perfectly. So the verdict is in. Another win for CodeBuff. It correctly figured out what was causing the problem and implemented a fix that actually worked. It passed the real skills test. It's not just an analyst, it's a real problem solver. All right, so CodeBuff passed the live tests with flying colors. But how is it doing this? What makes it tick? Let's pop the hood and take a look at what sets it apart from the competition, based on what its own documentation says. 2 big things really stand out. First, lower credit burn. A lot of these AI tools charge you based on how many requests you make. CodeBuff uses fewer of these credits, which means it's just plain cheaper to run. And the reason for that is the second point, context. Instead of just looking at the one file you have open, it pulls its context from the big scan of the entire codebase. That gives it a much deeper, smarter understanding right from the get-go, so it gets the right answer with fewer requests. And there are other cool features too. It uses these knowledge files to remember project-specific stuff, so it doesn't forget everything between sessions. It has skill support, which is a fancy way of saying it can act on its own to do complex, multi-step jobs.
And if you're in a massive codebase, CWD indexing lets you tell it to just focus on one little part of the project. It's fast, it's smart, and it's flexible.
So all of this really leads us to a much bigger question. When you have tools this powerful, this integrated into how we work, what does that mean for the future of building software? Are we looking at a whole new kind of partner in our day-to-day work? I think this quote from the source video just says it all. After putting CodeBuff to the test, the reaction isn't just, huh, that's neat technology. It's, wow, I am definitely going to use this in my daily work. And that, right there, is the true test of any tool for a developer. And that kind of leaves us with this final thought to chew on. As AI agents like CodeBuff get better and better at understanding, analyzing, and even fixing our code, the whole act of programming might just change. Maybe the future isn't about us typing out every single line of code, but more about having a high-level, strategic conversation with an AI partner who can handle all the nitty-gritty details for us. What do you think? Thanks for tuning in.